All right, in this video, we're going to talk about the Unit 6C pretest quiz. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. So question number one, we're looking at all of John's bills. All right. So he wants to buy a house. He makes $78,000 a year, and listed or above are his bills. So let's see. Let's see. He wants to find the front end ratio. All right. So when it comes to the front end ratio, folks, front end ratio, you're going to use this formula. Now, granted, I know I gave you two formulas on this particular question, but you only do it with the front end ratio. Now, if you notice, the numerator is the monthly housing expenses. Now, if you notice, I gave you a whole bunch of stuff, okay? But you're only focusing in on the housing expenses. So that means like the car payment, credit card payment, insurance bill, all that stuff, or car insurance, phone insurance, all this stuff has nothing to do with the house, so you're going to disregard it. But the potential homeowner's insurance, well, that deals with the house. That's a housing expense. Potential property taxes, as well as the mortgage payment, all three of these things, those are the housing expenses. So when I add all this up, I get $950 in housing cost. All right, that's my numerator. If you notice, my denominator is the monthly gross income. But in this particular question, I gave you the annual. So what you have to do is off to the side, you have to think to yourself, okay, if I'm making 78,000 a year, I got to divide that by 12 to get his monthly income. And so when I do that, 78,000 divided by 12, I get a monthly income of 6,500. So very simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 950, I'm going to divide it by 6,500, and when I do the math, I'm going to end up with 15%. Now, you got the percentage, but let's make sure let's make sure we're good at what that means. Now remember, the front end ratio is something that the banks use to measure somebody when it comes to how much debt they're going to take on when they buy a house. And if you remember, if their housing expenses is 20%, 28% or lower, that means yes, they will get money from bank. Okay, so if it's 28%, that means 28% or lower, that means they're not going to be house poor, which means yes, they would get money from the bank. Okay, so the answer for this particular question is going to be 15, as in 15%, and yes, they will. Okay, now let's play the what if game. What if this 15% wasn't 15%? Let's just make it up and let's say it's 30%. Okay, let's say if it was 30%, then this would be a no because their housing expenses were too much. They were too high for their monthly income, which means basically they're going to be house poor. All right. So now for this next question, we talk about the back end ratio. All right. So the back end ratio is very similar to the front end ratio, except the only difference is now you are going to use the total monthly expenses. That means all of it. All right, so all of it. So I'm going to add everything from here. And so when I add everything up, let's see, 250 car payment plus 900. I get a grand total of 2650 in all expenses. All right. Now, again, same concept with the denominator. We have 84,000 and we need to convert that to monthly. So we've already did it. So I'm going to not talk as much through it. Divide by 12. I think it's going to be 7,000. Yes, 7,000. So 2650 divided by 7,000. Your answer ends up being 38%. Now, since it's the back end ratio, it works off another percentage. So that means we're at 30%, 36%, or lower. Okay, that's what a yes would be. As in, yes, the bank would loan the money to the person, but we're at 38%. So they have too much debt, or too many monthly expenses, and they would be considered high risk. So the answer would be 38% and no. So the bank would not give them money if someone is high risk, as in they won't be able to pay it back. All right, so question number 3, John wants to buy a $200,000 house. The closing cost will be 2% of the purchase price. The bank is okay. All right, sorry, I'm trying to do this quickly and end up babbling more than anything else. All right, so the house is worth $200,000. Okay, The closing cost is 2% of the purchase price. So we're just simply going to multiply it to get the closing cost. All right. So once we find the closing cost, then the question says it'll be added back. So we're just going to take the closing cost and add it back, and we get 204,000. All right. Pretty simple. All right. So for this next one, John is buying a house and he will need to borrow money from the bank. The total cost of the house is 280,000, and the bank is requiring a down payment of 20%. Now, if you remember, a down payment is basically down payment, and I think those two words, means what he is paying now. Okay? The question is asking how much is left for him to borrow. All right, so that's what the question's asking. So that total cost of the house is 280,000. We are going to multiply that by 20% because that's what the down payment is. And I believe that's going to be 56,000, but all right. So we're at 56,000, which will be a down payment. So if he's going to pay 56,000 now, what's left for him to borrow? So very simply, a subtraction problem is going to figure that out for us. And our answer ends up being, it's right here, 224,000. All right. All right, next question here. John bought a house for 240,000. He took out a loan for 30 years, and his monthly mortgage payment was 975. Over the course of the loan, how much did he pay in interest? Now, again, the context of this question is interest. So, interest means how much more money did he pay over cost of house? All right, that's what interest means. Now, he is paying $975 every month for the next 30 years of his life. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take 975, you're going to times that by 12 because he's doing that 12 months a year for the next 30 years of his life. You're going to get a number. Okay? Now, this question doesn't necessarily say it, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. Once you figure this number, you have to add in the down payment. Okay? Because what we're looking for is all the money that was spent towards the house. Now, this question doesn't list a down payment. So since it doesn't list a down payment, basically we're just going to kind of disregard this. So all we're going to do is take 975 times 12 times 30. We get our answer. I'm sorry. I went a little further than I skipped a step here. When we do the math, we end up getting, I think it will be 351,000. But we want to know how much more did he pay over the cost of the house, which then we would subtract the cost of the house, which would give us a remainder of 111,000. That's what we're looking for. All right, sorry, I forgot to subtract the cost of the house. My bad. All right. Okay, so John is borrowing 180,000 from the bank. The loan of the interest rate 3 for 3 determines the monthly mortgage payment. All right, so here's the monthly mortgage payment. Now, a lot of these questions are going to be dealing with this formula, so I'm going to use this formula in its entirety for this question, and then I'm going to fast forward in other questions dealing with it now, and I'll talk about it when we get to it. So first off, let's get some letters out of the way. P represents how much he's borrowing, so that's $180,000. Okay. R is going to be the percent as a decimal. T is going to be 30 years. All right. So the way I like to do this is I like to take my scientific calculator and do the formula, the numerator first. So 180,000 parenthesis 0.03 divided by 12, close parenthesis 1 plus 0.03 divided by 12, close parenthesis, caret, parenthesis, 12 times 30. Okay? And I'm going to get an answer. Let's see what my answer ends up being. Let's see, 30 years and 3%. All right, so my numerator ends up being 1105.578995. But if you remember, the way that I like to do rounding, it's weird. I just like to keep the first or three numbers after the decimal. I don't round, I just keep the first three numbers. Okay? Now, my denominator, right? My denominator is going to be parenthesis 1 plus 0.03 divided by 12, close parenthesis, caret 12 times 30 minus 1. Now remember, if you have a scientific calculator, you're typing it in exactly the way I'm writing. 4, 5, 6, 8, 4, 2, 2, 1, 1. But again, remember, you are using the first three numbers after the decimal, no rounding. All right, so I'm going to take this number here, that's my numerator, and divide it by my denominator, and I'm going to get my answer. So when I do that, my answer rounded ends up being $759 a month is how much he's paying for the house every month. All right. Okay. All right. So John bought a house, and the way he has set up the loan, he will pay the homeowner's insurance. So what this means is every month, So here we go. Every month, he pays money to the bank. Okay. Now, there's three things that are in this payment. First off is the loan. Secondly is the property tax. Third is the home insurance. Okay, so let's play the what if game. Let's say the loan was $800. Let's say if the property tax monthly was $200. Let's say the homeowner's insurance was $100. So how much money is he paying to the bank? I just add these three numbers up and it ends up being 1,100. Okay, that's the concept of this question. Now, the only difference between this question is that here we go. Annual property tax, annual homeowners. So what you've got to do is convert anything that says annual to convert it to monthly. So if you notice we're at 1,800, we're going to divide that by 12, and I'm writing with my mouse here. So 1,800 divided by 12 gives us 150. You're going to do the same thing to 1020, divide that by 12. So 1020 divided by 12, and you get 85. Okay, so I'm going to have to type now. so, um, so the monthly mortgage payment is 750. The monthly property tax has been divided into 150, and then lastly, the insurance has been divided into 85. So we're just going to add those up, and we end up getting 985. All right. So John and Tom are identical twins who each both, I think that's supposed to be bought identical homes for the same price. Here's the story. So John made a small down payment, which he had to borrow 190 from the bank, making his monthly mortgage that. Tom, blah, blah, blah. We can read that. Okay, so which brother will end up paying more in interest? Now, remember, folks, in this question, interest, so interest is defined as money or money paid more than cost of house. Forgive me for short wording it or whatever. All right. So what we got to do is figure out John. How much more money did John pay than what he owed? So very simply, John, all right, he paid $830 a month, okay, for 30 years. So 830 times 12 times 30, he paid 298,800 total. All right. Now, he borrowed 190,000. So he ended up paying 108,800 in interest. Okay. All right. We're going to do the exact same thing for Tom. All right. So the exact same thing for Tom. Tom, he ended up paying 630 for 12 years, 30, for 12 months, 30 years, and he ended up paying 226,800 in total. All right. Now, we're going to subtract how much he borrowed, which is 150,000, which means He ended up paying 76,800 in interest. Can't spell today. So the question is, which brother, here we go, which brother ended up paying more in interest, and then by how much? So just by looking, 108,000 versus 76,000. So you would say John ended up paying more, and then very simply, all you got to do is just find the difference. So a simple subtraction problem is going to figure this out. 76,800. We do the math, and it went ahead and had the answer right here. John paid $32,000 more in interest. Okay. All right, so John's buying a house for 300,000. He will make a down payment of 140,000 and finance the rest. The loan has been set for 4% for 30 years based on his monthly mortgage. All right, so this is a lot of information here. Okay, so this question here, there's a lot of info. First off, well, we got to use the formula. All right. Secondly, we got to figure out the total money paid to bank, and then lastly, we need to find the interest. All right, so we got to use the formula. All right, so the formula, if you notice, all right, so we're not going to go through the formula, but I'm going to give you the high spots here. He is buying a house for 300,000, but he's making a payment for 100, or he's making a down payment for 140, and it's been set for 4% for 30 years. All right, so if the house is worth 300,000, but he's putting 140,000 down payment, that means he's going to borrow 160,000. Because remember, P is always how much money he's borrowing, not how much he's buying, how much he's borrowing. R is going to be 0.04%, or 0.04, sorry. T is going to be 30 years. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use the formula based on these numbers. If you need me, if you're not good on this formula, then go back to that last question we did where I used the formula, and you can rewind that. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing the formula again. All right. So based on the formula, he is going to be paying $764 a month. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is to find how much total money to the bank he's going to pay. So 764 times 12 times 30 for the next 30 years is going to give me a number, and then I'm going to add the down payment. Notice a lot of these questions are exactly the same. The only difference is we're just doing them in, just different questions, literally. You're doing the same thing. So 275,040 plus the down payment, which is 140,000. Okay. You do the math. He ended up paying 415,040 in total. All right, total, total. But we're looking for how much more did he pay above the purchase price of the house. So 415,040 minus how much the house was bought for, which is 300,000, which means he paid an additional 115,040 in interest, or over and beyond the cost of the house. All right. All right. Question number 10. All right. So John bought a car for 20,000. He made a down payment of 6,000 and financed the rest. All right. So determine the monthly car payment. All right. So we're using again the house mortgage payment formula, but again, it's very similar to what we've done already. This is now the third time. P is going to be 14,000 because he's buying the house, or he's buying a $20,000 car and making a $6,000 payment. R is going to be 0.05, and then T is going to be 4. All right. So using that information for the formula, car payment ends up being $324. Again, go back and look at like question 3 or something. That's me going over it. So John bought a car for $19,000. His monthly car payment is this for 5 years. How much interest? Again, we've done this before. Remember, interest is defined as how much money paid over price of car. All right. So he ended up paying 370 every month for 5 years. We're going to get a number, and then we would add a down payment if the question asked for one or included one. It did not. So, so um, when we do everything, we get 22,200, but the car is worth 19,000, and so that means he ended up paying an additional 3,200 in interest. All right. So again, buying a car is very similar to buying a house. All right. All right. Moving on. Question 12. John took out a car loan for 45,000, and 2 years later he got into an accident and the car was totaled. So he still had 29,000 left to pay on his car, and the insurance company gave him a check for 22,000 fair market value. He did not have gap insurance. All right. So how much would he still have to pay for that car? All right. So the car was purchased for 45,000. That's good, but that's not necessarily what I need. What I need to know is how much was still left. All right, here it is, 29,000. So it was 29,000 that was still needed to pay. So he needed 20. Or he still owed $29,000. Okay, he got into a car accident, and the insurance company gave him a check for 22,000. So he got 22,000, which means I'm basically just going to subtract that, and he still owes $7,000. Now the question is, who pays for that? Would it be the insurance company or would it be John? Well, he didn't have gap insurance, so that means he is responsible for that $7,000 because he did not have gap insurance. All right. All right. Charlie's considering moving into a one-bedroom apartment. Okay, so here is all the things that Charlie's going to have to pay to get into the apartment. So first off, we have the application fee, and we have the credit application fee. So that's already set for us. We don't have to do anything. The security deposit is 1 month's rent. So the rent is $500. So that means security deposit will be $500. He also has got to pay for both first and last month's rent. So that is $500 and another $500. Okay. Now let me move over here so I can type. The broker's fee is 1% of the yearly rent. People freak out on the yearly rent because it's like they don't know how to find it. Guys, very simply, if you're paying $500 a month, how many months are there in a year? It's 12. So that means that would give you the yearly rent. All right, so 500 times 12, I believe is 6,000. It is. So the yearly rent ends up being 6,000. And the broker's fee gets 1% of that. So I'm just going to multiply by 0.01. I believe that's going to be 60, and it is. So the broker's fee ends up being $60. All right, so very simply, this is what we're going to do. We're going to add this 25, we're going to add this 25, we're going to add this 500, this 500, this 500, and then lastly 60. And your answer ends up being 1610. All right, question 14. John is living on a budget, and 25% of his monthly income goes towards his rent. He is renting an apartment for $790 per month. How much does he make annually? All right, so again, just kind of thinking out loud here. We know that 25% of his rent is 25% of his budget is $790. What we don't know, what does 100% equal? All right, so that's our unknown. So I'm going to take this information, and there's more than one way to do this. I'm just going to create a proportion. 590 over 25 is equal to what's his whole budget, or what's his whole monthly income over 100. All right. So when we get an answer, X is going to be, and I'm going to type here because I get tired of writing my mouse here. X ends up being 3160, but this is his monthly income. The question is asking for his annual income, meaning his yearly income. So very simply, we're going to take 3160, we're going to times that by 12, and then we're going to get his yearly pay. So when we do that, we end up getting Wrote right through it. 37,920. All right, 15. John makes 24,000 a year and plans on renting an apartment. He found an apartment for $600 a month based on this info. What is the percentage of his monthly income that would make up his housing budget? All right. So pretty straightforward question. The only thing you have to do is you got to do one little conversion problem or conversion piece to it. So to find the percentage, in this case, you're going to take the rent, you're going to divide it by his monthly income. Okay, very simply. But if you notice, I didn't give you his monthly income, I gave you his yearly income. So off to the side, 24,000 divided by 12, I believe that's going to be $2,000. So the rent is 600 bucks. I'm going to divide that by $2,000 and my answer ends up being 30%, like so. There you go. All right. Ben is 18 years old. He decided to start investing $150 a month into an average mutual fund with interest rate 12%. How much will he have when he's 58 years old? All right. So we're using a retirement formula or investment formula, sorry. So we've done this before. Let's go ahead and break it down. P is equal to how much he's investing, which is $150 a month. All right. R, as always, is going to be the percentage, which is 0.12. T, actually, let's go with N. N's always going to be 12 because he's investing this monthly. And T is going to be how many years? Let's see. Ben is 18 years old, and then he's 58 years old, so T will be 40. So if you have a scientific calculator, all we're doing is just plugging this into the calculator as it's written. So 150 double parenthesis 1 plus 0.12 divided by 12 close parenthesis caret 12 times 40 years close parenthesis minus 1 close parenthesis. Now you can actually type this whole thing in your calculator if you use your parentheses. Now for the denominator, you got to put in parentheses 0.12 divided by 12. All right. So if you press enter, you'll get your answer. So if he invested $150 for 40 years every month, he will end up with $1,764,716. So $150 a month for 40 years, get over almost close to $2 million. Sign me up for that. All right. So for this question here, we're still talking about retirement here, but so Ed is about to retire and he will have three major components of his retirement income. He works for ABC Incorporated. He has been working for 30 years and will possibly be retiring at the end of the year. His pension is calculated on the average of his last year's salary, years worked in percentage. In his last year, he earned $106,000. His employer will give him 2%. All right, so what we're going to do is the answer is going to be his new monthly income. All right, so his retirement income. That's the answer. Now, the way you do this is you're going to find his monthly pension, which is step one. We're going to add Social Security, and then we're going to add his part-time salary. That's it. That's all we're going to do to get our monthly retirement income. So what we've got to do first is we've got to figure out, okay, step one, we are going to figure out his pension because we're going to multiply the year's salary, years worked, and percentage. All right, so step one, we're going to do this right here. His last year, he was making $106,000. All right. He has been, let's see, 2%. And then we're going to times that by his 30 years. All right. So when we do that, we get $63,600 a year. Okay. This is his pension a year. We're going to divide that by 12 to get monthly. All right. So his monthly pension, he's going to be getting, let me move that down a little bit. He's going to be getting $5,300 a month. Okay. He's also going to get $1,200 from Social Security, and then he's also going to get an additional $1,000 from working at the grocery store. So, what is his new retirement income with these three components? So, I'm just going to add them all up. He's going to be making $7,500 a month. All right. So, you just take each component, add them up. That's it. All right, 18. All right, so question number 18. John met with a financial advisor, and here's the plan for creating his nest egg. John is 20 years old, and he will begin investing 200. Okay, hypothetically, he will stop investing. All right, so step one, we've got to use the formula. Now, we've already used the formula in 2 questions ago for 16, so I'm just going to give you what all the letters will stand for in this, and then I'm going to do the formula myself. All right, so P will be 200. R would be 0.10, N is always going to be 12, and T is going to be 40 for 40 years. All right. So for step one, how much money will he have if he invested $200 for 40 years? All right. All right. He will have $1,264,816. Okay. Now, hypothetically, let's say when he turns 60, he goes, I am no longer saving. I'm now going to start withdrawing. So he is going to live on his nest egg. So how many times can he withdraw $6,000? Because he's going to do that every month. So 1,264,816. I'm going to divide that by $6,000 a month. So how many months? Let's see, 1, 2, 6, 4, 8, 1, 6. Divide that by 6,000. He should be able to do it. I'm going to round here 211 months. Now, this isn't including insurance or interest, so this could actually be extended, but we're just looking things hypothetically. All right, in theory, whatever. So, but the question is asking, convert that to the whole year, meaning how many years could he do that? So 211 divided by 12, you do the math, and you get basically 18 years. So he would be able to live 18 years on his nest egg, right? Hypothetically speaking. Question 19. Bob and Brad are identical twins who started working for the same company. Here's their story. All right, so this is another question dealing with the formula here. All right. So we're going to have to use the interest formula. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up a little bit. So Bob invested $220. The interest rate is 12%. He'll be doing that from age 60 minus 24, so for 36 years. So using the formula, Bob would have 1,597,035. Now Brad was a little lazier, so he's going to be investing 320. So 320, the interest rate is still 12%, but he's not doing it as long. Let's see. So 60 minus 28. Because he's only going to be doing it for 32 years. So he's investing more just for less years. So that's 1,428,688. So when you do the math, which brother had more money? Well, Bob had more money. So Bob had more money. Well, how much did he have? Well, a simple subtraction problem between the two will tell us. 168,347. All right. Lastly, and that is question 20. Pete works for Talco Incorporated. He has been working for the company for 30 years, and he's thinking of retiring. His pension is calculated on the average of Okay. How much less would Pete be making annually? All right. So right now, let's talk about this real quick. Right now, he's making $82,500. Okay. When we do this pension formula, remember the pension is his salary times the percentage times the years. Right? So when we do that, so his salary is 82,500 times the percentage, which is 0.025 times 30 years. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that real quick. I should have typed it on here. I didn't. So $82,500 times the percentage, which is 0.025 times 30 years. he will be making 61,875. So how much less will he be made? So 82,500 when he's working full time. His pension when he retires, 61,875. You do the math, and you get 20,625. That's it. All right. So hopefully you learned something. I did this pretty quickly, so I would encourage you guys to all go back and rewatch whatever questions that are giving you the most trouble. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.